Hello, and welcome on this new release of Xen Orchestra, which this time is the 5.96. As you may notice, we are kind of a bit late this time since it should have been released last week, but we prefer to, spend some time to make extra QA because we're introducing a kind of really big feature in the backups. So we'll discover that. But first, as we do as usual, we'll talk about what's new in the project and the community regarding Vates, Xen Orchestra, and XCP-ng. So first, we are growing our team. As you can imagine, things are, continue to go full thrust. There's so many companies and people migrating from VMware to alternatives, and we are still let's say, well-placed into that. There's kind of star alignments with, all the people on the market and the product on the market that maybe not the right fit. And we truly believe that we have a solution that is that makes sense for many of those VMware users. So to keep up the pace with all those new customers and bigger customers, we continue to grow the team and in the target of be positioned like a leader in that market. We are also building a solution architect team, so we'll enhance our migration services for people requesting to exit VMware. So having experts helping you out for that, but also for all the questions you might have while running to production and so on. Another thing that is to me important is we are committed to work on the open source and upstream components that we are using. And to me, this commitment is shown by the fact that we will organize the next Xen project meetup that will be like a small Xen summit that will be organized in January in Grenoble, in the heart of the Grenoble University. So that's also a way for us to, outside demonstrating that, sure, we are investing a lot on the upstream, but we also want to renew the generation, as in the Linux projects, people, just getting older and older, and we need to get fresh blood into the project. So that's why we're organizing this meeting. So it's clearly meant for Xen developers or Xen contributors. But if you are one of them and you're interested to participate, feel free. You will have the usual, core maintainers, developers, but also a part of the academic world that will be happy to work on, the biggest research and development topics that we need to move forward. So that's also a way to us to get students, onboarded and make the Xen ecosystem growing. And that's, Xen is the core hypervisor inside a project, and we need to take care of it. And it's not just taking it and then selling support on it. It's really participate and shape the future of the project directly. So that's what we do, and that's the level of commitment we have by doing this kind of events. We also, speaking of events, had a XOSTOR webinar. So if you missed it, you could see, Philip, one of the co-founder of FlintStore, the technology that is used behind XOSTOR, therefore the name, Mark, Chris, and also Ronan support for some, deep technical questions. So if you missed it, go ahead, see the video. You might find it interesting to understand a bit how things are working, the capabilities, and the future of our hyperconvergent stack based on LintStore and running with XCP-ng. Moving on, this time on XCP-ng security and maintenance updates. I know there's many of you wondering about when 8.3 will be released, and the release candidate is really coming soon. We are doing the last test phase. Things are going pretty well, so we could expect that maybe next week, something like that. But anyway, we also released some improvement and remove some blockers regarding some storage repository with native 4K blocks and so on. So take a look on the blog posts, many interesting security fix, but also features inside it. So do not miss that. And now let's talk about this Xen Orchestra release. So I will explain a bit the context where in the last 2 months, we had more and more customers, but also more demanding customers. And some of them are doing a lot of, backup jobs and using their storage at the maximum of their capabilities or near that. And so we had to, let's say, improve the way we are doing backup even further. And so it took us time. We had to get rid of some technical debt and so on. So the first thing that was on time, but that still required some work, was to improve the backup reports. So basically, when you get the email where you have all the details regarding the backup, if it's a success, a failure, and so on and so on, we entirely revamped the code, and this time we are using NJML format, which is really easier to use when you send HTML emails, because believe me, HTML emails is a nightmare. But anyway, with this, it's not now a lot better, and it's also more future-proof, since we could, integrate more information and shape the report in a better fashion in the future. So that's truly important, and that's just the visible part of it, the tip of the iceberg. But believe me, there is far more work involved under it, and this means we'll bring even more exciting features for the backup reports in the future. And now let's talk about the big chunk of this release, the thing that made us 1 week late, which is far from our habits, let's say. But we wanted to be sure to deliver, at least in the latest channel, something that will, work. And we had extra QA during this extra week we took to be sure it will work pretty well. So it's not obviously a guarantee. It's still the latest channel. So if you want to stay unstable, no problem. You won't be, affected by any way regarding this new code. But in short, what is CBT? So in short, CBT is change block tracking. So change block tracking is a feature that exists in XCP-ng since a while. These features means that when you are writing something, there's a small journal, outside the main VDI, inside the main virtual disk, that is storing exactly the modified blocks. This feature is natively available in XCP-ng. If you're a Xen server user, sorry, you have to go to the premium edition to get it. But anyway, now Xen Orchestra can leverage CBT. So previously, the way it worked was rather simple. We made a snapshot. We made the export the entire snapshot. On the next run, we made another snapshot, and we'll export only the diff between the two snapshots disk. So this diff was in VHD. We stored that, and when it was done, we removed the previous snapshot, so the first one. So all in all, we always kept, one snapshot. And this means this snapshot until the next backup will continue to grow in delta, because more and more, the difference with the active disk is growing and growing. And when we remove that disk, because the new diff is made with the new snapshot, then all this diff, all this delta has to be merged and or coalesce in the VHD chain. And in general, that's okay, that it works pretty well. But if your storage is, under heavy load, and you are writing maybe a lot of data between each backup run, this means the quantity, the number of blocks to merge will be important. With CBT, there's another approach. With CBT, as soon as we make the snapshots, we will remove the real data inside it for the backup, because we do not need the data. We just need the diff. And we'll take the small log with only the change block, and that's what we'll keep until the next run. So in short, instead of keeping the snapshot until the next backup, we will just keep a very small amount of data. That won't be the snapshot itself. So this means you won't be able to use the snapshot as before. Like it won't be even visible in the Xen Orchestra UI. It's just, a small pointer reference. And it means also that as soon you made the snapshot to make the backup, we don't have to wait to remove it. We could remove the data instantly, meaning the amount of coalesce, of merge data will be a lot smaller than without it. So this is really, faster and giving less amount of data to be merged in your chain, unlike the classical way. So obviously, there's a catch. It's a completely different way to make the backup. Instead of doing a diff between two snapshots, it's like just getting only the block tracking thing. And we had to almost review the entire backup code to be sure it will work without breaking the previous code, because we want to go to roll out this feature step by step. So if you were using the backup previously without any NBD, you won't be use CBT at all. So it means if you use not the legacy, but the previous methods, then even if you're on latest, you won't be affected at all. This won't change anything for you. If you were using NBD previously, you will be automatically opting to use CBT. However, by default, we won't opt you in purging the data after the backup, because when you do that, this changes a bit the way the data is coalesced, because as I said, it's not coalesced when the snapshot is removed after the next backup, but immediately after that. This might change a bit, and we want to be sure this won't cause issue at large scale before rolling out by default for everyone. So that's why it's opt-in. So if you want to use CBT, then you need to have NBD configured, and then automatically you'll have CBT. And if you want to enjoy the purging data immediately after the backup, then you would to toggle this button to be sure it will work that way. So again, it will be only available in the latest channel, but we need your feedback. So obviously, if you are running very critical stuff and so on, unstable, you don't have to make the tests. No worries, we have all our community doing it. But in any case, you can do that through XOA with its latest release. And we have a dedicated thread on our forum to centralize your feedback, because before that, we had many issues on master, and thanks to our great community of people testing it, we were about of many issues, and that's why we decided to keep one extra week to be sure that XOA people that are using the turnkey appliance will have something working. So big kudos to our community. We made that thread and we had a lot of feedback, and now the news from today are really good. That's a green light. People do not have any issue right now anymore, but still, at the scale we deployed with XOA, we want to be on the safe side. So this explains why we took more time and why we made it, opt-in and for people using NBD. So eager to have feedbacks, because we know some people with storage used a lot were kind of not having enough time to coalesce the data versus the amount of data they were writing every hour, every day, and so on. So this could be a game changer for people writing many data in their storage, because again, the amount of merge of coalesce will be a lot smaller by multiple order of magnitude. So that's really great stuff that we made for you. So that's the big chunk of this release. But still, we are continue to work on XO6 and XO Lite. Now you should be able to have access in your vSex URL to a new, let's say, a tree view that now is supporting a search in live within the entire tree view. So if you want to search for all VMs with Alpine or things like this, now you can just enter it, and that will do it for you. So this is one of the first improvements that we made, but don't forget there is many more that are coming. I would say next month, but we are already in July. So for the end of this month, in only 3 weeks, you'll have another release, and we'll have even more highlights for XO6. Also, we have new components that are just made right now and not displayed, but we at least have the target to make them displayed in the next release. So having a true dashboard for XO6 and things like this. We made card components. Future search bar is also moving forward. So many exciting components are now written from the design, the Figma design. And now the next step is to integrate those components inside XO6 or XO Lite. Moving on XOA. So this is specifically regarding people using XOA. We have a small CLI into it. And now this CLI is able to deal with configuring extra interfaces. So for example, if you have your XOA in different networks, you might need to configure IP addresses from multiple addresses. So still it's a Debian VM, but again, the reason of our success at Vates is to make tools easier to use. So thanks to the XOA CLI, you can just easily configure the IP address without knowing which file to modify on a Debian VM and so on, because we know many of our users aren't Linux experts, or they just want to use the platform without having to learn everything in all the details. So that's why we provide those kind of improvement and simple CLI to configure things the way they want. We also support now the CIDR notation, making it even simpler to configure a gateway and so on. So quality of life stuff for XOA users. Let's talk a bit about the incoming 8.3 features, because the release is, as I said, coming very soon, at least the release candidates. And we integrated some features already in Xen Orchestra, like, for example, the PCI pass-through directly via the web interface, things like this. And this month, we introduced something like excluding disk when doing a snapshot. So previously, you knew you had the no-back features helping you to avoid doing a backup of a disk, but now you could even use no snap, meaning when you click on snapshot on your VM, it won't snap the VDI with the no snap name into it. You can combine both to have no back and no snap. So if you have very large drives, if you have raw drives or specific drives that doesn't support snapshot, this won't prevent you to backup and snapshot the rest of the VM, which is really convenient if you use really large raw volumes like 10, 50 terabytes, things like this. So really convenient and coming already in Xen Orchestra, working on the beta 2, will work on the RC1 and obviously when it will be out. So I think we have maybe like 5 or 6 specific features already prepared for 8.3. So as soon as it's on the final version, you will already enjoy day one all the new features that you can enjoy with 8.3 through Xen Orchestra. So we're ready. Regarding XOSTOR, so XOSTOR continued to be improved. It was really exciting weeks with Ronan, the main developer, and Linbit, the company behind it, because we continue to see like improvements, small bugs and things like this. And, the two teams are working very well together, and the maturity of the product is really improving, week after week, month after month. So visible change right now are more about quality of life, seeing more details about what's going on. But also, just to let you know, under the hood, it's also improving, and it will continue to improve that way. Now we have, a pretty good experience and a good, I would say, chemistry between the teams, and we are really going deeper on even, Linux kernel changes and things like this together to be sure that we could get most of the performance of the tooling. So really, it's going really well, and XOSTOR is having more maturity as time is passing. And let's go for the last section, the Misc one, which is already, things that are not in all the other sections, but still very useful stuff. So let's talk about the rolling pull update and rolling pull reboot features that you might know. As a reminder, rolling pull reboot is basically click on a button, it will move the VMs around, update the host, reboot the host, everything automatically. We last month create a task for it, so a Xen Orchestra task. To give you an idea, we decided to not just let's say, rely on XCP-ng task, because we need more than that today. Now, Xen Orchestra is really an orchestrator on top of it. So we need a way to create meta or tasks that are made by Xen Orchestra that might include many subtasks that could be XCP-ng task or even specific XO task and so on and so on. So this system is really great, and it starts to be visible for rolling pull reboot or rolling pull update. Now we even add progress in rolling pull update or reboot, because, for example, if you have 8 hosts and you do rolling pull update, we know that each host that is done will be 1/8, of the progress of the rolling pull update. So this means, as an admin, when you do a long and complex operation like this, you can have an eye on, the progress, when it started, how long, and maybe when it will end. So that's really a great friend to know what's going on, at which step you are, which subtask, and so on and so on. So that's exactly where we want to go with those XO tasks that will kind of supersede all the tasks that you had before, meaning you could have decent, alerts, details, permissions, and many things like this. So this is, really great. This is also a lot of work under the hood, behind the scene, but this is really, really, really great. Now we also improve the task to log all the failed API calls And this is possible, like if you are on latest release, you are seeing many tasks that you didn't see before. But this is great news because this means we have more control on what's going on and the failure and so on. So this July next release will also probably improve on those potential, tasks that are displayed, understanding what's going on, what could be a problem, and so on. So more transparency, all in all, with the tool we have. So this is also an important, huge amount of work that is not visible in the last months, but starts to be finally visible for the users. And this is great work from our both backend and front-end team. So moving on the Netbox v4 support. So remember, we have a plugin that helps you to synchronize IP addresses, VM names, host names, and many other infrastructure information inside Netbox, which is a really powerful open source tool to keep track on your infrastructure. Not just IP address, you could also store, your racks, where they are physically, where the machine is exactly, and so on and so on. So that's really a great software. And it was made initially for a customer who had VMware and wanted to keep synchronization between VMware and Netbox. They had their own scripts, so we decided to make a plugin, like it was 4 years ago, something like that. And we continue to improve it. But we had a surprise, like in May, I think, something like that. Netbox v4 was out, and the changelog is not telling you the whole story. And we discovered a bit that they broke many calls in ways that weren't documented, so we had to dig ourselves. So I mean, we are not blaming them. It happens. That's a major vision, so things are breaking. It happens, no problem. But anyway, we had to investigate and spend some time to make it compatible, and now it is. So if you are using Netbox 4.x, the synchronization with this new release of Xen Orchestra will work again. So some work, kudos to the team and Pierre who made that. So we managed to make it compatible. Took us a bit of time, but still, it's important to continue to be compatible with the ecosystem we built around us. And the last one is like a quality of life, convenience stuff. When you connect to a storage repository, you can now see the iSCSI, the XCSI ID directly in the UI, so you have more detail than just the LUN and the device, but also the ID, helping you to discriminate between other ideas and so on. So it has been asked by the community, and obviously it makes sense. And this is also why it's important to give us feedback, because obviously we have our own production, but we cannot have the diversity in production that thousands of users are having in their either garage or in their company when it's professional usage. So this is typically the kind of feedback that help us to build a better software, because we always want to listen to our user. I mean, just remember that when we started Xen Orchestra, it was just meant to see where the VMs are on which host, and now it's so much more than this. But it became this today thanks to the feedback we had from our users, community, and customers. So again, I'd like to thank the community for all the feedback they are providing every day on the community forum, and our customers providing through the ticket system and so on. That's the right way to build a software together and to improve it. So that's it for this release. That is, again, 1 week late. But again, believe me, we'll have some stuff to talk about in only 3 weeks. So it's just 3 weeks, to wait for the next one. So I hope you appreciate that, and have a great month of July, and see you in 3 weeks. Bye-bye.